Streaming.
I'm on it.
What does it say?
Just live in 20.
Great. In 20 minutes?
29 minutes, yeah.
Shoot. Hi. So I don't know then that we can test it, but.
But how did Allie do it? How did she test that video?
Because it was a different link. We were using a test.
Oh, I see. Wait.
Link.
Wait a minute. Hold on.
Oh, it went?
Yeah.
Okay, hang on. But let me play this one at the same time. Keep playing that one. And I'll turn.
Awesome. Challenging. Community. Amazements.
Tradition.
Double.
Different.
Crazy.
Togetherness, but apart. That's two words. Confusing. Triumph.
Tough.
Muffled.
So that's coming from here. So that's great. So I think Ryan set it up so that.
Yeah, so there's no sound there, so that's not going to be anything. So all you hear is this people just streaming it.
But I was worried that the stream was going to also pick up the audio that was in here, because when we're in presenter view, it will.
Oh.
But it doesn't look
Friends.
like it will.
Teachers. Fun.
Knowledge.
Wisdom.
I think it was
Lunch.
after we hit play.
Lunch.
So let's try again. So I'm gonna play this at a
Yeah,
different.
don't say anything extraneous, Maya, because the live feed is picking out the side commentary.
The microphone is very strong. All right, so let's see.
We've got this. No
Okay.
fear.
I'll send it to you.
Watch out. Just kidding. I love a challenge. Motivationality issues. Are you sure that's a word? It is now.
Are you watching?
Oh, I'm not. I'm just doing this.
Oh, that's good.
What do I do? I'm sorry.
So go back to the
stream?
live stream.
Okay. Hold on.
Okay, I think it's okay.
You think it's okay?
Because it sounds to me like the audio is
Awesome.
only coming from.
Challenging. Community. Amazing.
It's gonna work.
He's got a Boy Scout meeting or something. He told me way back.
Nope.
He would respond to me though.
It's just gonna keep showing this.
Oh shit. Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna go out again. I'm gonna go back into the email.
Okay, I just started it.
Okay. I was not giving these swim meets enough credit.
Yeah, this is like a bit of a shit. This streaming thing is like a shit show kind
It's just gonna keep showing this.
of. What's it doing? That's what people are gonna see.
Okay, I just started it.
But they're gonna hear us swearing. I was not giving these swim meets enough credit. Okay.
Okay, now I'm gonna click over to the video.
Click over to the slides.
No, it's on yet.
What is this?
There's someone. No, it's just repeating that.
What?
Okay, can I stop?
I'm worried. Is it working? Can you mute or something?
Oh,
I'm worried. If we go back, it's gonna go back to all that.
I think I. slideshow.
Forgive me.
Oh, because
Shoveling food in.
okay, and then it'll eventually show the slideshow. Right.
Yeah.
I don't know, Ben, do you know how to fix a live stream? Can you fix something real quick? That is not his jam.
Do I need to call Ryan?
Okay, so you got it, but it's still picking us up. Right, but it works. So hang on.
Welcome. We're going to get started. Thank you for taking the time on a busy school night to be here with us. Maybe that means you got out of bedtime, which I always appreciate. So tonight is just a really special night. It's so wonderful to actually be together, to be in person, to see faces with masks, without masks, but just to really the chance to be together. I just want to start off and introduce myself that I'm Robin Shine. I'm chair of the board. I am mom of 3 children, an 8th grader, a 6th grader, and a 3rd grader. And that's my husband who's affirming that I didn't forget anybody or get their ages incorrect. What I did want to say just at the top is that Maya and I are going to share some words. We're going to invite some other leadership up to speak as well. And that we really designed this evening in our remarks to reflect the questions that people submitted in advance of the evening. And so we tried to address as many things as came in. But if for some reason at the end of the evening we did not cover what you were looking for or you have additional questions, we really invite you to engage in conversation with either one of us. So feel free to follow up with us by email as we're milling about this evening. It's just the start of a conversation. So, we hope that you walk away this evening feeling a renewed sense of community, commitment to the school, and excited about the diverse learning and growth opportunities your children have each day at Heilicher. David Ackerman, our Jewish Life and Learning Director, is going to give a Devar Torah.
It is great to see everybody. So this is Nechama Leibovitz. She's a world-renowned and a revolutionary teacher of Parashat HaShavua, the weekly Torah portion. And one of the things that she taught was that you should look at the week through your Parashat HaShavua glasses. And by that she meant you should always be asking, how can the weekly Torah portion help me think about the week I'm entering? For me, that meant, how can this week's Torah portion help me think about coming to this town hall meeting? It's my custom whenever I engage in learning to recite the bracha, the blessing for learning. I invite you to join me. No one is obligated. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kichanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. So this week, our weekly Torah portion is Parashat Tazria, which addresses issues of purity. That's a hard topic for a lot of people. It begins by describing what happens after a woman gives birth. In the Torah, childbirth renders the woman impure, so she must separate herself from the community for a number of days. The number is different for boys, for a baby boy than for a baby girl, but that's not what I want to discuss. What the Torah tells us is that after her period of separation for purification, for either a son or a daughter, the woman is commanded to bring either a lamb as a burnt offering, an olah, or a pigeon as a chatat, a sin offering. And these requirements are puzzling. You tell me why they're puzzling.
Why should they bring an offering at all?
Good question.
Why a sin offering?
Say it out loud.
Why a sin offering?
Yeah, what's the sin? Anything else? So those are in fact very fundamental questions. A burnt offering is required when somebody commits a certain kind of offense, and a sin offering is required when somebody sins. Childbirth doesn't fit either of those categories. In fact, childbirth fulfills the commandment to be fruitful and multiply that we have in Genesis. It would make a lot more sense for the woman to bring a thanksgiving offering, a todah. Rabbi Jonathan Sacks, a a world-renowned scholar, explains that the sacrifices actually have nothing to do with childbirth, but everything to do with child-rearing and parenthood. The burnt offering, the olah, evokes the binding of Isaac, when Abraham sacrifices a ram instead of his son. This story can be read as a polemic against child sacrifice. Parents don't own their children. Parents are the guardians of their children. It's a big difference there. As to the sin offering, according to the Torah, when God is about to create humanity, God has a consult with the angels and says, well, let's create human beings in our image. And the rabbis of the Talmud go to work and use their imagination to think, what must that conversation have been like? And they say it goes like this. Go to the next slide, please. They say, the angels oppose the idea, arguing that it is human nature to sin, so why bother? God proceeds to create Adam and Eve anyway, and we know the end of that story. Adam and Eve sin, as do multiple generations. What we can take away from this is that childbirth echoes God's creation of humanity. It's a creative act. Women bring human beings into the world. So the sin offering in Tazria is a signal of the parent's responsibility for the child's future conduct, which we know will fall short, just as Adam and Eve's conduct fell short. Together, those two references, those two sacrifices, and the stories they remind us of represent the great challenge of parenthood. How to hold tight while letting go at the same time. And I think it's appropriate then, from the lesson we learned from Nechama Leibovich, to use the parasha as our glasses for the week, to think of that challenge as we gather together here at tonight's town hall, parents and educators, to discuss how to best support the children we share while also preparing them to fly on their own. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Each week, I'm fortunate to meet with a few first grade students. They come to my office, and as if on cue, they comment on the lighting and switch on my overhead lights. They prefer the harsh overhead lights rather than the carefully curated lamplight of my office. But they win. They know the drill. They take their seats, we chat for a bit, and then learning begins. These weekly sessions bring a welcome anchor to my week, a reminder of the amazing place that Heilicher is. Engaged students, budding with personality and amazing questions. A few weeks ago, a student came to my office. As they settled in, we started to chat. They asked me if I really had time to meet with them. I was the head of school after all, and I had really important things to do. I assured them nothing was more important than that moment right there, connecting and supporting a student. Another anchor, reminding me that Heilicher is a place where students are known, seen, where connections and relationships are built and nurtured. The last 2 years have certainly tested us, our children, our families, our school, and our greater community. The last 2 years have also shown us our resilience and determination. It has been an honor to work in this community, to work with a gifted team of administrators, faculty, and staff who have worked so hard to shape, reshape, and shape again what school needs to look like with the health and safety of all its members at the core. Driven to provide learning, consistency, and engagement, motivated to support one another despite the challenges that have stood in our way. I do want to take a moment to acknowledge that tomorrow marks a big change in COVID protocols at Heilicher. While for some, the new mask optional policy has been a welcome sign of progress, getting us closer and closer to normal. I am also aware that these changes weren't welcomed by all. Making decisions such as these are deeply complex, and I'm so grateful for the professional wisdom and guidance of the Health and Safety Committee and the support of the parents. These individuals, along with Nurse Katie, have been instrumental in helping guide the many, many decisions related to health and safety that we've had to make over the last 2 years. The committee's goal has always been one of supporting the school, offering the latest research and best practice in COVID prevention. These individuals have tirelessly helped school leadership balance the needs of consistent in-person learning with the health and safety of our community. While the world is very much ready to put COVID and the myriad of obstacles it has thrown in our path in the rearview mirror, I want to assure you that we are monitoring things closely, continuing to track Heilicher cases and community data so that we can continue to make the very best decisions for the safety of our community. Through the early days and weeks of March 2020, when the world we knew changed forever, to the eve before masks optional rolls out at Heilicher, it is evident that Heilicher, like a tree whose roots are deeply entrenched in rich, nurturing soil, has not only stood strong, but has grown. It is clear in the hallways, full of well-used and abused snow pants and boots hanging from the lockers, beautiful photography and paper cuts from our middle school elective, STEAM projects, and poetry. It is highlighted when Tefillah prayer and song drift through the hallways and auditoriums on Monday morning. It is demonstrated during parent-teacher conferences when faculty get to share the joys, successes, and growth of their students. It is evident when a new reading level is mastered and new friendships are built. Heilicher has stood strong and grown, with our Kindergarten Plus program this year, allowing us to have an additional kindergarten teacher supporting the varied needs of our youngest students. A longer school day has given students extra minutes to deepen learning and friendship. The revitalization of the Jewish Studies and Hebrew program under the thoughtful leadership of David Ackerman, reopening the beloved makerspace, helping to support Heilicher's commitment to STEAM and inquiry. Getting back to normal has taken time, and we still have a ways to come. We are continually finding unique and creative ways to strengthen our program. The student service team has worked diligently to support the social and emotional health and well-being of our students, something that is on all of our minds as we come out of COVID. From the proactive second step and our whole lives curricula to counseling and small group support from our school counselor, Andrea Hansen, the student services team has stayed connected to the current needs of our students, pivoting to provide consistent support and guidance to the youngest and oldest who walk the halls. I think some of them are on here. I hope that they hear these words, that they are so true and valuable. Teachers. Teachers at Heilicher are our best asset. Any school is only as strong as the gifted educators that bring passion, excitement, and interest to the subjects they teach. As you have all seen, our teachers are deeply dedicated to their craft, bringing to life Heilicher's very own podcast in the middle school to learning the history of modern Israel. Math, science, engineering come together in lower school science. For the third year, our third graders participated in the Minnesota Zoo Zoom project, offering them an opportunity to develop a solution to a real-life problem faced by zookeepers at the Minnesota Zoo. And this year, 3 of our students won the Innovation Award. Our 7th and 8th grade Jewish Studies faculty have created a truly unique program that allows our middle school students to be active commentators on classic Jewish text. The list of faculty accomplishments and contributions go on and on and on. Retaining and recruiting talented faculty is vital. We know that there have been some expressed concerns about teachers who have left the school over the past 2 years, as well as the open positions we have to fill for next school year. Educators leaving the field is sadly a trend that is being experienced in independent and public schools across the country. All you have to do is begin to type teachers in the search browser. That's it. The National Education Association this February released a nationwide survey talking to teachers, in which 55% said that the pandemic is pushing them to leave the profession sooner than originally planned. In a school like ours, we feel every departure deeply. It can be hard to keep these departures in perspective. We are not immune to what is going on in many, many schools throughout the country. Heilicher has and will continue to support our faculty, ensuring that the school is a supportive and wonderful place to work. While some educators are leaving the field altogether, others do look to grow in other institutions, to deepen their practice in other schools among a new set of leaders and colleagues. While this too can leave us feeling disappointed and vulnerable, it is normal. And like all change, offers up new opportunities for growth. Our current open positions are posted in a wide range of hiring platforms, both locally and nationally. We have seen in the last few weeks since these positions have been posted a strong and steady stream of fantastic candidates. We are working tirelessly to vet, interview, and hire additional outstanding faculty to join the community. As many of you may remember, in the spring of 2021, Heilicher retained nationally recognized DEI consultant Joelle Allen to guide our faculty and ultimately the broader community through an exploration of our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Joelle has done numerous trainings for our faculty, and all Heilicher employees have taken the Intercultural Development Inventory, a tool used to measure intercultural competence. The results of the IDI will help Heilicher develop a top-line diversity goals and move forward with educational and programmatic initiatives to achieve them. Heilicher is accredited via ISACs. I always get it confused, exactly what letters go together. But ISAC stands for the Independent School Association of the Central States. We are nearing the end of a 7-year accreditation cycle and are putting together materials now to prepare for our ISAC's team accreditation visit next school year. Part of this preparation involves a comprehensive parent survey. Yes, I said survey. You will be receiving the survey in early April, and we are really hoping that every parent fills it out. This is an important way for us to get information about what we are doing well and where we need to improve. As we look ahead to the coming months and even a bit further to the start of the 22-23 school year, I wanted to share some exciting highlights. Our middle school students are taking their much anticipated trips. The 8th graders will be going to DC, and our 6th and 7th graders have a combined trip to the Wolf Ridge Environmental Learning Center in Ely. These are 2 hallmark Heilicher experience, demonstrating the school's commitment to getting back to normal. Next week, the 7th and 8th graders will take the stage after many months of rehearsals for our Beauty and the Beast show. Please join us. We are hard at work planning the many spring all-school activities. We look forward to each year focusing on the ways that we can come together to laugh, to dance, to celebrate. Kicks for Kids and the May 19th benefit are wonderful opportunities we have before us to celebrate our school. We are looking forward to stable enrollment for 22-23 school year. We are in the process of sending kindergarten acceptance letters, and lateral admission season is in full swing. Next year, we plan to participate once again in 5th through 8th grade sports, as well as building a robust list of after-school offerings. After-school life at Heilicher will be back in full swing. Education leadership is working on summer professional development opportunities for our faculty, ensuring ongoing growth and learning is prioritized and focused on our academic initiatives. As I work closely with the leadership team and our teachers on a plan for next year, I am reminded that the strength of the school is beyond one person. I am committed to working with everyone, from the students to the teachers to the parents to the board, until the end of June, to make sure that Heilicher is prepared for a smooth transition to its next leader. This will not be the last you see of me. I will now turn things over to David Ackerman once more, who is going to be giving us some updates in his department.
I'm saying something first. Oh, it's okay. No, I'm surprising Maya. Is that actually what we wanted to do before David comes up? Is that Maya did this beautiful description of all these wonderful things that are happening in our hallways, in our classrooms, in the schools. But we actually have a video that we want to show you that really allows you to see your kids. So let's take a look at that before we continue on.
The video is really
Okay, great. Thank you.
We're good.
Awesome.
Challenging. Community. Amazements.
Tradition.
Different.
Crazy.
Togetherness, but apart. That's two words. Confusing. Triumph.
Tough.
Muffled.
Friends.
Teachers. Fun.
Knowledge.
Wisdom. Lunch. Lunch.
We've got this.
No fear. Watch out. Just kidding. I love a challenge. No fear. Watch out. Just kidding. Motivationality-ishness. Are you sure that's a word? It is now. Motivationality-ishness. Sure that's a word. It is now.
Now I'll introduce David Ackerman.
Yes. Okay, David.
I'm here,
Yeah.
I'm walking around. I think it was W.C. Fields who said, "Never follow children." I'm sure they are much more interesting than I am. So an update on what's happening with Jewish Living and Learning here at Heilicher. And as we say in Hebrew, Havdil Elef Havdalos, to make 1,000 distinctions, I want to refer to a different classic text. I hope you recognize the character. That's the Cheshire Cat. If you remember your Alice in Wonderland, there's a scene where Alice approaches the cat. "Would you tell me, please, which way I ought to go from here?" The cat says, "That depends a good deal on where you want to go." "I don't much care where," said Alice. "Then it doesn't matter which way you go," said the cat. Here at Heilicher, we actually care a great deal about where our students go, and therefore we spend an awful lot of time thinking about the very best way to help them get there. That's true in all of the subject areas. I'm going to speak with you a little bit about what is happening in the area of Jewish studies, Jewish living and learning. And it starts with a clarifying statement. What is the mission for Jewish studies here at Heilicher? So I thought I'd have a screen in front of me. I'm going to step over here. It's very simple: to prepare young people to be fully functioning citizens of the Jewish people. I find that notion of citizenship to be a very powerful one, because citizenship brings with it both privileges and also obligations. So what does it mean to get the benefits of being a part of the Jewish people? And what does it mean to have obligations to the Jewish people? And of course, as a school, that means asking some very serious questions about what is the role of knowledge. Because what we are after for a vibrant Jewish community is a well-informed, well-educated Jewish citizenry. So here at Heilicher, just to clarify some language, when we talk about Jewish studies, we really are talking about 5 curricular areas, 5 core academic areas: Hebrew language, Bible and text study, holidays and customs, prayer, and Israel. In many schools, they make a they speak differently about Hebrew language and Jewish studies as if they were 2 separate animals. The truth is that you cannot think of any of those other subject areas without thinking about Hebrew language. So that was the first thing that we began working on this year, is making sure that we understand not only what those subject areas mean in and of themselves, but how do they relate one to the other. We took 2 very important steps at the beginning of the year to continue building on the work that Heilicher has been doing for decades. The first was to take a look at the definitional statements that we use to clarify how we think about each of those subjects areas. It's easy to say we teach Hebrew. The question is, what does Hebrew mean to us as a gateway into Jewish thought, into Jewish prayer, into Jewish text? When we talk about Hebrew, are we talking only about biblical Hebrew, or are we talking about modern day Hebrew? Hebrew is a complicated thing. So we have created a definitional statement that identifies how Heilicher, Heilicher on its own, how it thinks about each of these subject areas. And that is what guides our work moving forward. And I would suggest, if you haven't visited the school's website recently, to go to the home page, click on academics, click on Jewish studies. Each of the definitional statements for each of those areas can be found there. The second thing that we began working on immediately, again, building on the work that Heilicher has been doing for decades, is what's called the portrait of the graduate. That is, what would we like in an ideal world for a student who starts Heilicher in kindergarten and goes all the way through to possess, to know, to understand, to believe by the time they graduate in each of those 5 subject areas. And then we begin to go to work, because our job then is to say, this is where they begin when they come in as kindergartners. We've now identified where we would like them to go. How do we get them? And to use an educational, jargonish kind of word that I don't like to use, we then this year have been working to develop what's called the scope and sequence in each of those 5 subject areas. And I'll give you an example. The question is, in the area of holidays and customs, we have a holiday coming up, Passover. How many of you is Pesach making crazy already? It does that for a lot of people. That's why it's 8 days, by the way, because we would never do all of that stuff if it were only a one-day holiday. We couldn't leverage it. What are the concepts related to the holiday of Pesach that a student should know? What are the customs that they should be familiar and fluent in? What are the texts that they need to navigate? What's the vocabulary that they need to have handy? And what are the stories and songs that make up the cultural aspect of the holiday? So as an example, in the scope and sequence, in the kindergarten year under concepts, you'll discover that Pesach is the holiday that Pesach is the beginning of the Jewish people as a people, Am Yisrael, as opposed to individual Jews. That's a big idea for a little kid. If you look at the third grade, the concept that they talk about is the notion of freedom, but freedom in two ways. There's freedom from slavery, but freedom from is not the same thing as freedom to. Once you are freed from slavery, now you are free to observe the Torah. It's a slightly more complicated concept than what they're presented with in kindergarten. In the sixth grade, we might look more specifically at the connection between Pesach as a holiday in and of itself, but how does Pesach then connect to Shavuot, when we celebrate the giving of the Torah? It takes what they've learned in third grade to a deeper level, because now they begin asking what's similar between the holidays, each of which is unique. Finally, in the eighth grade, we talk about the role of memory in the construction of identity. After all, when we say, "B'chol dor v'dor chayav adam l'rot et atzmo," each generation has to see itself as if it came out of Egypt. We weren't there. The way we're able to see ourselves is by recalling a story that's been told from generation to generation. And we remember it even though we never witnessed it. And it's because we remember it and we respond to the symbols in the same way that we can think of ourselves as part of the Jewish people. Because responding to the symbol is a trigger to memory, and it's the shared memory that makes us a people. So that's an example of how we think about staging out for grade to grade all of the holidays, and I could apply that to each of the curricular areas, but they didn't give me the whole evening. Believe me, I could fill it. Because I love talking about this stuff. I'd like to highlight one other, I've given you an example from our Holidays and Customs curriculum. Let me speak to a moment about Hebrew language as the portal to so many things that are essential in terms of the creation of a Jewish identity. We've been teaching Hebrew at Heilicher for decades, and I have been incredibly impressed at the levels that some of our students achieve. Language is something that, language ability is distributed among the student population. Not everybody has a knack for languages, but we have achieved tremendous things. Our Hebrew language program is in need of some refreshing, and I am very excited that we are going to be partnering with an organization called Hebrew at the Center to help us move into what's called a proficiency-based approach, which if you look up second language learning, you will discover is the cutting-edge approach to learning a second language, whether it is Spanish, whether it's Portuguese, whether it's Russian, whether it's Ukrainian. And we need to apply the best thinking in language learning to our particular language, which is Hebrew. And that program is going to begin with a week of professional development for the faculty at the end of the school year to set us up to begin applying the proficiency-based approach in all of our classrooms this coming year. I'm truly excited about our ability to do that, and that's just an indication of where we are at as we have laid a foundation this year for the beginning of the changes that honestly will take 2 or 3 years to begin to phase in all of the different subject areas across all of the grade levels. But with the faculty that we have, I'm highly confident that we are going to see even greater learning accomplishments than we've seen so far. Do I have time for questions or not? Or what?
We decided we could improvise, so why don't you take a question or two?
All right, a question or two. I'm trying to stick to my time limits here.
I have a question. So my name is Jen Hochstein. My son is Reuben. One of the things personally about me is that I am not Jewish, and sometimes it can be hard to navigate the community as an outsider. And one of the things I'm noticing as my son gets older is Jewish prestige, and how some kids recognize their own as they get older, and then recognize the lack of it in other children. And I was just wondering how that's integrated into the Jewish studies here.
It's a very significant question. And I appreciate your asking it. I'm sure it wasn't necessarily easy to decide. I'm going to put it out there. So thank you. And I want to start by making a comment. Language matters, and we all should feel comfortable identifying ourselves by who we are, not by who we're not. So we have families, and we have students here at Heilicher who are Jewish, and we have students who come from other faiths. The issue is, it's not that they're not Jewish. They may be Catholic, they may be Protestant, they may be Muslim. Everybody is who they are. I have grown up in America. I've never once identified myself as a non-Christian. So that's just something to think about. But I think it speaks to what we try to accomplish here by asking, how does Jewish thought think about pluralism? How does Jewish thought direct us to be inclusive? And how do we make sure that we provide the proper recognition to all of our students for the achievements that they create for themselves, in and of themselves, not measured against the achievements of any other student. So that's, it's always a work in progress. Some days we get it right every time. Some days I scratch my head and I say, "Ve is mir, woe is me, what happened here?" So then we get back up on the horse and we try to improve. So thank you for asking the question. I'm going to turn it over to Robin, our board chair.
Thanks, Steve. Okay. Let's see, I'm a little shorter than David here. Let's see. Okay. So last year, shortly after I was named president of the board, my then second grader, who's kind of a character for those who know him, came home from school really excited, ready for a conversation, because he told me that day was his favorite lunch. It was pizza bagels. And that day in particular, he was given an extra pizza bagel. He was thrilled. And then he said to me, "Mom, all of my friends said that I got the extra pizza bagel because you're the president." Is that true? Is every day extra pizza bagels? Well, I could have chosen to go with Mom of the Year and said yes. I sadly had to inform him that setting the lunch menu, making recess longer, picking teachers, or claiming that every day was pajama day was just not the job of the board. In fact, the work of the board is setting the strategy and ensuring the long-term sustainability and stability of Heilicher. I want to start by saying that I'm grateful to my fellow board members for their volunteer service, the time and thoughtfulness they put into this responsibility. There are a number of them in the room today, so if you don't mind just raising your hands so folks can see who our other board members are. Thank you so much for being here. So this past year, the work of the board has been particularly challenging and meaningful as we navigate a leadership transition. While we are saddened to have such a gifted educator and school leader leave our hallways, Maya's departure has created an opportunity to reflect critically and gain a lot of clarity of our priorities for the next stage of our school. Specifically, we need to continue to grow, to continue to strengthen our academic programs, all while addressing our structural deficit. Putting these two items into balance is what will allow Heilicher to exist for future generations, which is our ultimate goal. So 2 years ago, our then head of school, Yoni Bainis, hosted a town hall similar to this evening and really shared openly with our community the school's structural deficit. It's true, each year we run a deficit budget. We are very fortunate, though, that we're able to meet our cash needs year after year through a variety of major gifts,
successful annual fundraising, dollars generated from our endowment, and we even benefited significantly through COVID with great gratitude to Federation's Kadima campaign and PPP money from the government. The board, in partnership with the staff, has taken and continues to take steps to manage this deficit, including expense reductions that don't impact the quality of our content of our educational program, continued fundraising growth, including raising our endowment dollars to support the school in perpetuity. These efforts are working, and we're making incremental progress, but we still continue to seek long-term solutions. And I want to stress that the reason why we're being transparent and we continue to bring this to our community is not to worry you. There's enough people worrying. It's not to worry you, but rather it is the belief that that we all have a role in finding these long-term solutions. The board has always approached that seeking or resolving our structural deficit is a communal effort. It's going to take all of us, the board, our parents, our faculty, our community of supporters, to work together. This can look like referring new families to our admissions department to increase enrollment, participating in one of our fundraising events, and thinking creatively about new models or partnerships that bring efficiency and sustainability. I'm happy to invite our treasurer, Gabe Siegel, up, to share many more details about our financial health. So I want to start by saying that he may be a new face to some of you, but he has been around the halls of Heilicher for a long time. Gabe joined the board in 2018, and he is a proud alum of the Minneapolis Jewish Day School class of 2001 and the Twin Cities Jewish Middle School class of 2003. And professionally, Gabe spends his days as the vice president at Norwest Mezzanine Partners. So I'm gonna let him share more details.
Thank you, Robin. Yeah, I have been in the halls of Heilicher for a while and also spent a lot of time in the office, so I'm familiar with the inner workings of a school. But yes, as Robin was saying, I wanted to give you guys a brief overview of what it takes to run the school here from a financial perspective. And we put together a couple of slides to highlight these things. On this first slide, you'll see we have, can everyone hear me? I might step away from the mic. Okay.
You can hear.
Oh, I'm on Zoom. I didn't even realize that.
Okay. You're okay.
All right. You'll see on the blue bar here is our annual expenses. And so it takes about $5 million or so to run the school. The vast majority of that cost is spent on our administrators and our teachers. The remaining amount goes for rent and supplies, food service, but certainly the vast majority is people assets, and difficult to change those things quickly. And as you can see, we have been making some slight cost reductions over the last few years, and though I would say COVID slowed this down a bit, and obviously we needed to hire a full-time nurse as well as additional substitute teachers in order to handle the issues that the pandemic brought on. And despite the expenses going down, our costs continue to rise. Everybody has seen the news about rising inflation, and thus that means rising salaries, it's more expensive to purchase school supplies, and so it's a constant battle to keep up with the rising costs. More importantly, I think, is how we cover these costs, and that's the multicolored bars to the right for each year. As you can see at the bottom in the yellow is our net tuition, which is about $2 million and covers roughly 40% of our costs. And we've been working in past years to slowly increase this because tuition is the most sustainable and predictable source of revenue that the school has. Beyond that, Robin mentioned that we are fortunate to get great support from the community. We have received between $1.5 and $2 million a year from major donors over the last few years, and these are gifts which are in excess of $100,000. And we're very fortunate to have those people who can support the school with those means. But we've also raised significant amounts of money from smaller donations, which is the green bar, which has been between 1 and 1.2 million over the last few years. And everybody hopefully knows Becky and her team. They work hard to work with all of our donors, large and small, and looking for new sources of donations on a regular basis. On top of that, the last couple of years, as Robin mentioned, we've also been fortunate to benefit from some one-time pandemic relief efforts through the Federation and their Academia program, as well as the federal government and the Paycheck Protection Program. And we've received a little over $2 million in the last 2 fiscal years as a result of those programs. Without those, the school would be in a different financial situation right now. And also, we do receive some support on an annual basis from the Federation of about $0.2 million, and that is predictable, and the Federation has been supporting the school for many years, and we hope will continue to going forward. I think I covered most of that, but on the next slide, I think I covered most of those things, but I think the most important thing to take away from this is that the revenues that the school raises come from many different sources, and some are more predictable than others. But as has been mentioned, we've started an endowment that will hopefully benefit the school long term, and we continue to raise for that. But in the interim, annual gifts as well as net tuition continue to rise. I think on the tuition part, it's important to point out that the school is also supporting the community in giving out almost $1.4 million a year in financial aid, which equates to over 40% of the total gross tuition amounts. And we want to continue to be able to support any Jewish family that wants to send their kids to Heilicher, and financial aid is certainly the most important way to do that. I don't know, is there time for questions now on financial pieces?
We could do a question.
A question, otherwise we can save them for the end.
Do you have any information, or could you share later, the percentage of families who pay, like the scale of tuition by percentage of families, meaning like what percentage pay full tuition, and on and on?
Yes, I couple high-level numbers, but we certainly have the data on that. I believe roughly 2/3 of families receive some amount of financial aid, and that varies from the vast majority of tuition to a few $1,000s of the tuition. But certainly we can provide more data on the tiers and the amount of financial aid in each.
Great, thanks, Gabe. So. Yes, thank you, Gabe. Yes, look at that. This is what your child can become. No, genuinely, thank you to Gabe, our finance committee, to Karen Hoppy, who is here, our CFO, and just the whole finance department for the diligence and care and work that they do to keep us on track. And also Gabe referenced Becky, and clearly our revenue would not be where it is without Becky and the admissions team, and Allie, who's Bertus, who helps and supports her, and then as well as, for those who haven't, this is Allie Greenstein, who is our interim admissions person, all contributing to the health and wellness of our school and the dollars that come in the door. So I want to just pick up on one more thing related to our financial picture and what Gabe had really shared. So I wanted to give an update about how we are really thinking critically and creatively about new ideas for our long-term health and long-term sustainability. As I mentioned, that one of the ideas to address our structural deficit has been to look for partnerships and collaborations with other institutions where shared services or working more closely together would both create efficiencies and strengthen our program. So some volunteers and board leadership of Heilicher and the Newman School at the St. Paul Talmud Torah of St. Paul that's right, are engaged in conversations about working together in strategic and meaningful ways. We're really excited by the trust being built between our two organizations, and we'll be turning to all of you, our parent community, soon to just gather more input about the development and creation of next steps. So this is another place where we'll be looking to you to step up and offer insight and participate in a variety of conversations and opportunities there. So, of course, all of this work that we've been sharing tonight, right, from the great academic work that Maya and David have talked about, the work of the board, is all happening amidst a leadership transition. And as I mentioned before, that this leadership transition has really created the opportunity for us to think carefully about the specific type of leader that Heilicher needs at this moment. I'm very grateful for the co-chairs of our head of school search committee, so Michelle Kaplan-Clenard and Esther Goldberg-Davis. Michelle is traveling this evening and is unfortunately not able to join us in person, but I'm happy to call upon Esther to come up to give us a status update on the search. And for those who don't know Esther, she has also been a board member since 2018. Seems like that was a good year for us of our leadership. And currently serves as the secretary. She is the mom of 3 alums and 1 current 8th grader. Her days are numbered here as a parent, but not as a leader. So I'm going to turn it to Esther to give us an update.
Thank you, Robin. And yes, my days as a parent are numbered, but one of the reasons I took on this co-chair position, and many thanks to Michelle, who is watching from afar, it's been a great partnership, but one of the reasons that I took on this role was really because I feel personally and as a family just very invested in making sure that our school is sustainable and successful for many, many generations and years to come. I also want to recognize the search committee that has been working hard, sometimes with short notice, to gather and do thoughtful thinking about the search. The search committee includes alumni parents, current parents, faculty, folks that play roles in other various places in the community. It consists of Mark Applebaum, Sarah Gallist, Rose Horowitz, Benji Kaplan, Elena Levitt, Robin Shine, Becca Steinberg, and Mike Siss. So many of you were introduced to the head of school search process back in January. We contracted with a contractor, with a consultant, Jane Armstrong. She conducted listening sessions with various stakeholders across the community. Thank you to parents who participated in those. There was also a survey that was sent out. And all the information she gathered from that input went to shape the opportunity statement, which is basically the position profile for the head of school. And as Robin mentioned, it really helped clarify the qualities we are looking for in this next leader to navigate some of the challenges you've heard about, the opportunities, and certainly the strengths that this school has. Jane has really leveraged her network, both nationally and even internationally, to source candidates well beyond those that we would have found on our own. The position was posted in places where independent school and Jewish professionals know to look for opportunities. She has had conversations with potentially viable candidates, doing much of the vetting and prep work for us. And the exciting news is that she has sent our way a very strong candidate who we are excited to bring to campus next week for a visit. This candidate will be arriving on April 5th and 6th. During their time here, they will be having meetings both in person and over Zoom, parents, leadership, donors, other community leaders, to really get a sense of what Heilicher is, and for us as much to show this candidate what we're about. There will be 2 parent sessions that we invite you to participate in, one in person, one via Zoom. More details will be coming out tomorrow with the time and the ways to participate in that. And really invite you to take a look, to meet this person, see what they bring, get excited in a way that the search committee and board members have already become excited about this individual. We have had preliminary conversations with this candidate and really believe that they possess many of the skills and experience that we are looking for. This candidate is a seasoned leader, has head of school experience in a variety of schools, and believes deeply in the value of Jewish education. As always, we are open to hearing from you. We would love to hear from you. Feedback, questions, concerns, anything that comes to mind. There is a dedicated email, head of school search, HOS search, at hnjds.org. Please feel free to reach out and we will be happy to respond. Email, phone calls, conversations, whatever you need. And that's where we're at.
Any questions? Yeah, we'll finish and then we can do questions. Okay, is that okay? Okay. So thank you, Esther, Michelle, and the whole search committee for all of your diligent work. Personally, I have found this process to be really inspiring. It's exciting to be able to speak with others about our school, to get to brag about what makes Heilicher unique, what makes it such a special place, and to benefit from hearing what new perspectives bring in terms of how they see our challenges or see the opportunities and the impact that they want to have on our school. So I am really excited for these next steps and the opportunities ahead, but I also recognize for some, it might feel really uncomfortable. Change is hard. And I just want to name that and own that. I think that as a community, we really do need to embrace that change requires us to hold two things at the same time. That it can be a little bit uncomfortable, the uncertainty, the unknown, but it also can be really exciting. That it creates opportunities for us to both think about our traditions, to think about our rituals, to think about the things we hold on to as really core to us, but to also think about what's possible, what could be better, what could be improved, what could be exciting. And what really sort of crystallized this idea of how we have to hold up both for me was I actually was thinking about Passover, as David said, and was thinking about preparing for the Seder. And it really dawned on me that sort of this beauty of what happens in our Seder, right? Seder means order. Thank you. See, I can be a teacher too. Seder means order, right? That our whole Seder, each year we look to Passover, that there is order, there is structure. We know what to expect. There are these steps of the Seder that we repeat each time. And that can bring us a lot of comfort that we know what's happening. But also during Passover, we ask ourselves this big question: why is this night different? We look for something to be different. We want this evening to be different, to feel special. It elevates the experience. It makes things better. And so I just really encourage all of us to sort of think that way as we go through this transition period, that it's going to require us to do both. We want to hold on to the structure, but it's okay, and it's okay to have that feel a little bit unnerving or to be a little bit uncomfortable. But it's also okay to really embrace the excitement and the energy and the ideas of what's to come. I really feel really strongly that our community is going to navigate this next period by really balancing our urgency for change with patience for each other. We'll balance our desire for order with also a little chaos along the way. And that we'll hold on to our traditions of what makes Heilicher so wonderful with an openness for innovation and change. So I really invite you to come along for that ride. And it's okay if it feels uncomfortable, and bring that forward to us, to the leaders, right? That's what we're here for. And we really want the doors to be open for these kinds of conversations and these kinds of engagements. So the last thing I'm going to say is about opening of the doors. Through the listening sessions that Esther referred to, that a lot of what we heard through the search process was how much community is really important to our Heilicher families, right? The sense of coming together, and that we have this great sense of community. And COVID really took that away from us, our inability to gather in person, to build relationships with the other parents in the classroom, the people I get to say hi to in the hallway. So the doors of the hallways of Heilicher are reopening. And so we are now allowing vaccinated adults to come into the building as volunteers. We've been including lots of opportunities to volunteer in the roar, so I encourage you to look there for those opportunities and to step up. I personally have been volunteering at lunch the last few weeks. For all the hours I spend working on Heilicher, it is like the most joyful hour of my week to feel like the vibrancy and the energy in the hallways, and to be around the kids makes it all really worthwhile. I encourage you to find ways to come into the building during the day. We are going to need your input. Maya referenced ISAC's, our accreditation process. It's really important that we get parent feedback. So please fill out those surveys and give us your input. Similarly, there will probably be some other opportunities for parental input
around some of our collaborations and other projects that we're working on. If you have particular skills, a talent, a professional skill, something that you think would be really helpful to Heilicher, please let us know. We want to find ways to really leverage our parent community to find those opportunities, to connect you with opportunities that can be really meaningful, that benefit the school, and that you get to put some of your talents to work. Continue to be a vocal ambassador for Heilicher wherever you go. Right? Building our enrollment is really critical to our future success. So talk to others, whether that's incoming kindergarten or lateral students. Share with others. Use social media. Tell your story. Please encourage people to check us out. And then we have a variety of events coming up that have been mentioned. So Heilicher Kicks for Kids is Sunday, May 1st, which is our community fundraiser. Our annual benefit is this spring, Thursday, May 19th. You can register now for your tickets. It's a free open event for people to participate. And then our annual meeting is on Thursday, June 2nd, which is sort of our closing gathering. It's also where we will vote on a new slate of board members, and it's another opportunity to get an update on the status of the school. So I close all of this evening with, I just ask you to say yes when you're asked to participate. Show up, be part of this. We're just grateful to be back in the building, to see your faces, and excited for this next stage of our school. So we'll hang out for a while. You don't have to rush off unless you want to, but we're happy to hang out, answer some additional questions. Informally, feel free to check in with any of those who spoke. Thank you for being here. Thanks to those who are online. Such a pleasure. And as we said at the top, you can always email Maya and I any sort of questions. If we can't answer them, we'll get you to the right person. This is just the start of the conversation. So thank you all.